everybody. Welcome to Rachel's Reviews. We are back for another week of Netflix Hidden Gems. This is a series we've been doing every week since the quarantine, where we're talking about hidden gems that you can find on either Disney Plus or on Netflix, depending on the week. And because we got lots of streaming time, you might as well watch and find some of these hidden gems. And I'm film critic Rachel Wagner, and Ryan is here.
Hi, Rachel. It's so good to hear your voice, and it's so good as per usual to be a part of this.
Yeah, it's so much fun. I really look forward to this every week and trying to find some really fun little uh films that maybe may not be in everybody's radar. Or at the very least I can introduce them to you, which is even if nobody else listens, at least it's fun to do that and share that with you. So I really have been enjoying it.
Well, I appreciate that, and I hope we keep this going forever, or
Yeah.
until the internet dies, whichever comes first.
Sounds good. I think so. I think so. All right, well, let's dive in. We've each got 5 recommendations. This is from Netflix this week, and I'll start.
Let us partake.
My yes. So my first one is a movie I actually reviewed on my channel for Family Movie Night. It is the a movie called The Money Pit, and this was actually done as part of a patron request. I read Mr. Read. I reviewed Mr. Blanding's Built His Dream House with Cary Grant, uh, and as a patron request for Family Movie Night, and I found out that this movie, The Money Pit, is a remake of that film. And so I ended up reviewing both the original and the new version. And this movie, it stars Tom Hanks and Goldie Hawn, and they start to build their dream home, and just everything that could go wrong that could go wrong goes wrong. Everything. And it's pretty funny. And the physical comedy is really good. And sometimes I think we forget, even though he's so great on Saturday Night Live, that Tom Hanks, he can be really funny with the physical comedy and with everything else. And it's probably on the mature side as far as family movie night recommendations. Um, so I don't know. It depends on your family. I would say older family. It's a strong PG-13, I would say. But it definitely has some really good laughs, especially if you like physical comedy. And then you'll like it. And so yeah, and I'd recommend watching the original. Mr. Blandings Built His Dream House, that has Cary Grant and Myrna Loy in it, and it's quite funny as well.
And you said that Cary Grant is in The Money Pit and the original?
No, just in the original.
Oh,
So the
okay.
new one has Shelley Long and Tom Hanks
Oh,
in it.
gotcha, gotcha.
Yeah, and so yeah, it's pretty funny. I think underrated little movie from the 80s. So with that most people haven't seen, I don't think, from Tom Hanks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've actually never seen this one, and I can say that I've seen like 90% of Tom Hanks's output. There's very few that I haven't seen,
Yeah.
so I'll definitely have to remedy that situation.
Yeah, and it is pretty broad. I think of it as kind of maybe similar in style of humor as something like Home Alone, as far as the physical comedy and some of the shenanigans are pretty broad, but I enjoyed it. So
Hearing you describe the plot kind of remind me of the second half of this movie. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's called Baby Boom. It starred Diane Keaton from
yeah,
the late '80s, where she gets fired from her job and she buys the country home she always wanted.
yeah.
It turns out it was more of a handful than she thought, and I love the part where she goes to the real estate agent and she is like, "In 20 years, I'm the only nibble? Like, are you kidding?"
Yeah, it's that's very true. That I think that's right around the same time, and they have a very similar kind of sense of humor. I love Baby Boom. I think it's really good.
If it was on
So,
Netflix, I would definitely recommend it because I think I've seen that movie 10 times, maybe more, because
mhm.
it's just really funny. Diane Keaton, it's one of her best performances.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's so emblematic of the late 80s as far as feminism and views of, like, women in the workforce, all that stuff.
And
It's
Harold
very
Ramis is her boyfriend.
yes. Yeah. So that I'd recommend checking out Baby Boom if you can find it anywhere, but The Money Pit is pretty funny. It'll make you laugh, at least did for me, and, I would check it out. So what's your first one?
So just to give my theme for my choices this week, last time we did a Netflix episode, I went pretty dark. I went to some dark places. So
Yeah.
I wanted to cure that this week and talk about some family films that at least my family would like.
Uh-huh.
Like these are definitely more lighthearted. So my first choice is from 19 or actually 2000. I was thinking of the other one. It's Joseph King of Dreams. This is from DreamWorks, and it's you could pretty much call like a prequel to The Prince of Egypt. If The Prince of Egypt was on Netflix, I would definitely recommend that. But Joseph King of Dreams is on here, and I recommend that just as much as I do Prince of Egypt. It's based on the book of Genesis tale of Joseph, who and and what and what made Prince of Egypt so good is, in my opinion, what makes Joseph King of Dreams so good. It tells the Bible story in a way that can be easily accessible, but it doesn't do it a disservice either. Uh,
Mhm.
It also has a pretty decent voice cast in here. Ben Affleck is in here. I like most of the work he's done. I mean, Mark Hamill, we all know who he is. Jodie Benson is in here.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah? Jodie
y-
Benson?
yes.
I didn't know that.
No, it was when I was doing research, I was like, is that right? Jodie Benson? And turns out, yes, that's her.
Yeah. Cool. Very cool. Yeah, I obviously have heard of this, but I've never seen it, surprisingly. So it's a good hidden gem because I love Prince of Egypt so much, but for some reason I never seen the sequel. Well, not really
Joseph King of
sequel, but
Dreams has the same animation style, like
uh-huh.
literally the exact same.
Yeah. And similar music style, I would think, to Prince of Egypt. But yeah, I know I need to see it. I think it looks really good. And I it looks like something obviously that might be a good Sunday watch. And was looking for good Sunday movies.
Yeah, when you and Durbania do your devotional, you should definitely talk about that.
Yeah, that would be good maybe what could be our topic could be like maybe on pride. American pride, because that's a big part of the Joseph story. And I have heard one of the songs, the oh, now I can't think of it, but my friend did it. It's his recital. He did one of the songs from that movie, and I remember I liked it. So that's cool. I'll have to check it out. You know, those animated sequels are usually terrible, so it's good to know when there's a. I mean, it's not really a sequel; it's a different story, but still,
It's more of
usually
a
those are
prequel
pretty
if you're
bad.
talking about like books of Genesis.
Yeah,
If Prince of Egypt is the book of Exodus, then Joseph King of Dreams
yeah,
is the book of Genesis, which came before.
that's true. It's more like a spin-off, maybe kind of. But yeah, I usually those kind of direct to DVD movies are not very good, but sometimes there's good ones. So I'll have to check it out. That's a good choice. All right. Well, my next choice is another romantic comedy, and it is called Kate and Leopold. And this is a really funny movie about Meg Ryan's character is named Kate, and she is just overworked. She's overstressed. She hates her job. She's living in an apartment and trying to make everything work, and just worn out. and she's kind of jaded about love, of course, and her brother, I think it is, or friend, I can't remember, uh he finds this portal to go through time travel, and he ends up meeting a their ancestor who ends up being the person who invents the elevator. But who's also like a duke or something. I don't know. He's some kind of nobility, and he hates, all those things. And so anyway, the duke guy or whatever, he ends up following this brother person, and ends up appearing in modern times. And so the big joke of the movie is you have this person living in 19th century kind of decorum and rules and all that stuff in a modern setting, and that's where they get most of the humor. And you have Hugh Jackman playing Leopold, which is the best. And Meg Ryan is just kind of perfect for this role because she was the rom-com darling for so long. And there's a lot of stuff in it that really makes me laugh. Like the there's one scene where he makes her breakfast. He makes her just simple toast with cream cheese and strawberries, and he gives it to her, and she like starts to cry because nobody's made her breakfast in like 20 years. Like,
I'm just
oh wow.
I'm just sitting here like that breakfast sounds amazing.
Yeah, that's right. She's like, "This is so delicious," and I think most of us can relate to that. That it's just there's so yes, it's good to be a modern, independent woman, but it's also sometimes so nice just to have things done for you and to be treated like a lady and uh
Treat yourself.
yeah, or a gentleman, I guess in your case, just to have somebody help you because life is hard and stressful, and yeah, you want to be independent, but also sometimes it's just like you're just like, please just to help me. And that's kind of what you get here, and they have really fun chemistry, Hugh Jackman and Meg Ryan. And I don't know, I feel like it's a rom-com that you don't hear talked about very much, but it's actually quite funny and quite clever. And I think that they get done with kind of the whole fish out of water part of it pretty fast. And so it's more about their relationship and how his rules versus her rules and how that ends up working. And so I think that I think that they do a really good job, and I think you'd like it, even if maybe you're not like the biggest rom com person in the world, because I think it's genuinely pretty funny. And Hugh Jackman and Meg Ryan are so good.
I believe I saw this movie like 5 or 6 years ago. I
Uh
can't
huh.
remember much of it, but when you sent me your list and I was doing my research, I found that this was directed by James Mangold, who directed
Oh,
Logan, which is the best X-Men movie ever made. I don't care what you think. Uh, and he also went on to direct Ford v Ferrari, which is just a fantastic movie from last year, probably one of my 10 favorites of last year.
yeah, me too.
Seeing Parasite just threw my list off entirely. Now it's like if I could expand it to 15, I would. But no, this movie actually sounds fantastic, and I was going to say Hugh Jackman has such a range. Like he can go from being, like being in something like The Greatest Showman, where he's like, "Ladies and gents, this is the moment you've waited for," and he's like this super charismatic,
Yeah.
circus owner, and then turn on a dime, and he can be like the father from Prisoners, where he's torturing Paul Dano in a bathtub. But or he could be Logan from X-Men. He
He
has such
really does have
he has such
quite the
excellent
range.
range where he can go from serious to funny to self-deprecating to uber serious, and he's one of our best living actors, and that's the reason why.
Yeah, like if you watch him in this Bad Education that just came out on HBO, and then compare him to some of the roles that you just mentioned, I mean, he's did Jean Valjean, he did, I mean, all over the place, and uh, he is really charming and wonderful here. I mean, you think this was early on in his career, 2001. I don't think had he even been. When did the first X-Men come out? Had he even been?
2000, and he had
So
and before
just
that
barely.
he had and before that he had been in a in in he was in the London West End production of Oklahoma that was made into a movie.
Oh, so this was one of his very first movies
Yeah.
they ever did. So that's interesting too. And so I think that it's definitely, if you're open to romantic comedies, I think it's definitely worth a watch. It's a lot of fun. So, what do you have at number two?
So my number 2 is from 2011, a forgotten animated gem if there ever was one. It's called Arthur Christmas.
Oh, love
This
it.
is this is a movie that I recently rewatched and I absolutely love. This was a joint Columbia, Sony, and Aardman joint, and it's about a I guess I want to say a young man named Arthur, who is voiced by James McAvoy, who is the youngest son of Santa. And he believes wholeheartedly in the Christmas spirit. If there was ever a Christmas fan, like he would be like number one. But around him, Christmas has become very streamlined. They have a very strict system in place to the point where Santa doesn't even have to enter the house anymore except to maybe like eat the cookie. Like that's it. There are so many elves and so much like stuff done before Santa even gets there that he's almost pretty much phased out. But Arthur still believes deep down inside that in the Christmas spirit and the pureness of that.
Yeah.
The conceit of the movie is that one of the letters to Santa gets left behind. And so he is like no child left behind. So he gets her gift and goes down to down to earth pretty much to give this child her present along with the grandfather of Santa who is hysterical and this elf who has a mohawk which is just really cool in my opinion. uh,
Yeah.
Arthur Christmas is definitely underrated. No one really talks about it and it absolutely should. It's definitely something I'm rewatching every Christmas.
Yeah, it's a movie that I love. I think I had it in my top 20 movies of the last decade. Uh,
Oh wow.
so it's one of my favorites. I love Arthur Christmas, and I love the fact that there really is no villain in the movie. Like his brother isn't trying to do something bad. He, like, from his perspective, he's trying to do something good.
Right.
He has no like nefarious ideas of taking over Christmas or something like that. Like he's just trying to do it in the orderly and best way that he believes, right? But he's forgotten the value. He just, it's like that's one thing to be a villain, it's another thing to just kind of lose your way a little bit, and that's more his brother. And so I think that that makes for, it's actually a movie about this family dynamic that you have going on, and his dad getting kind of lazy and maybe over relying on his brother, and so, and him kind of proving himself, and that he his ideas and his way of thinking is valid. And it's just, it's funny, it's sweet, the animation is so lovely. It's a Christmas movie because of course I'm gonna, I love Christmas movies and animation, and I love Aardman, and so I think it's definitely very underrated and a very wonderful movie. I think it's a great pick for your hidden gem.
Yeah, you are definitely down with the Christmas.
Yeah.
one one last thing before we move on. Just one thing. The son, Stephen Claus, is voiced by Hugh Laurie, who was in House and a bunch of
Yeah.
other things. And Grand Santa was voiced by Bill Nye, which I was trying to think of who was voicing Grand Santa. And then I looked it up. It was Bill Nye, which is great. And then Santa Claus is voiced by Jim Broadbent, which those
Yeah.
three names are just
Great cast.
fantastic.
And James McAvoy was seeing the lead, right?
As
Yeah.
Arthur, yes.
Yes, Arthur. So great choice. I think everybody should watch it. If you haven't seen it, it's a new, modern holiday classic, I would say.
That's
Watch Arthur
definitely accurate.
Christmas. Watch Arthur Christmas and then watch Claus. And you've got your Netflix holiday film film uh doubleheader. That'd be great. So great pick. So my next pick is Mansfield Park. And I was thinking about this film because, we have Emma coming out soon on digital and DVD. I just actually got it on digital. And so, and the Emma adaptation is, I would say, a bit irreverent, just a little bit. It takes a few risks, it tries a few things. It's not super traditional, but enough so that it certainly didn't bother me. But if you're looking for something that's a period piece that takes a few chances, that's not totally by the book, then this version of Mansfield Park, I think, is a good choice for you. It's definitely, some people didn't like it because it does take a few risks. It's a little more politically minded than some people prefer, but I really enjoyed it. It's probably partly because the book Mansfield Park is not it's my least favorite from Jane Austen, and so I guess I'm more than willing to give it a little bit of wiggle room for some few things. Like, it kind of, there's a whole thing about like the slave trade and how it affects the family and the people, and so there's just some stuff that people didn't like, but I actually like that it's a little bit different and that it takes some risks. Frances O'Connor is her name, and so she's good. I like her in it, and it has Johnny Lee Miller as Edmund, as the lead male, and I was really enjoy him. He's in another version of Emma that I really like from 2009, and so I love Jane Austen, and I love period pieces, and this one just takes a little bit of risks and does some different things. So I think it's interesting and definitely worth checking out. And so you should watch it on Netflix.
Yeah,
So
I remember I was looking this movie up and I was thinking Johnny Lee Miller, why do I remember that name? And then it hit me. I was like, "Oh my god, he was Frankenstein." And there was a national theater production in the UK of Mary
oh
Shelley's
yeah,
Frankenstein, and Johnny Lee Miller was Frankenstein
oh
alongside Benedict Cumberbatch. And that
yeah,
promo, when I was working at my local movie theater, that promo would play in the lobby over and over and over and
oh,
over again, and I
that
would
makes
hear
sense.
Johnny Lee Miller's name like 30 times a day. And it was one of those things that I repressed. And then as I was looking it up, it was like, Johnny Lee Miller, why is that? And it was like, oh, and then it was just like, it just came back to me.
That's funny. Well, he is in these period pieces. He loves the like I said, he was in Emma, and then he's in this, and he was also in the show Elementary. I don't know if you
Oh, he
ever.
was Sherlock in that show
Yeah.
alongside Maggie Q.
Wasn't it Lucy Liu?
Oh, yeah, yeah, Lucy
Yeah,
Liu.
yeah.
Yes, you were
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely right.
Yeah. So
Dummy.
anyway, he's really charming. I've always liked him a lot. And he's kind of, his character's sort of frustrating. You're like, come on, wake up! You're being so dumb. But nevertheless, he plays him well, and so I'd recommend checking it out. What do you have as your third pick?
So my third choice, this is a bit of a weird one because it's in a gray area of, is it hidden? I know it's a gem, but is it really hidden? It's Back to the Future Part 3.
Uh
The
huh.
Back to the Future movies are beloved,
Yes.
especially 1 and 2. I have never met a person who has said, Back to the Future, lame. Like, that's never happened, uh, especially 1 and 2. 3, though, I've heard some people say, "Oh, that's the lesser of the movies." I'm like,
Yeah.
"What are you talking about? Like, that's the one that brings it all home." It's it. The movie itself is basically, at the end of Back to the Future Part 2. Spoilers. Doc Brown gets sent back to 1885 after the DeLorean is hit by a lightning bolt, and so Marty has to go back to 1885, get the doc, and then go back to 1985 and then destroy the time machine because they have done probably irreparable damage to this timeline. But I digress. What I love the most about Back to the Future Part 3 is the world that it builds. Like, it builds a western town. Like, Hill Valley in 1885 looks like a lot of the western towns I grew up watching the Leone films and, the Searchers and stuff like that. um, Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd, of course, they have great chemistry together. Mary Steenburgen is really good in this as Clara Clayton. She's not just the typical damsel in distress. She's actually is a three-dimensional person, and you can definitely see the love that's formed between Lloyd and Steenburgen in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And the final train scene where Marty and Doc go back is just it's just one of the best of the series in my opinion. And the ending where everything just comes together, like, this is how you do a conclusion. So to a certain extent I understand why people don't think Back to the Future Part 3 is a step down in quality, but I do say, like, it's still really really good.
Yeah. I don't know. In some ways, I like it better than the second. The second is so downbeat.
Yeah,
It's
I
so yeah,
my order for me is Back to Future Part 1, Part 3, Part 2.
yeah, yeah. I think as far as my particular tastes, I think that I have the same. Yeah, I think that it's really at its heart, it's a romance. Is the third one between Doc Brown and as you said, and the Mary Steenburgen character, and it's really quite sweet and funny and enjoyable. And yeah, I like it. I like the ending. I think is really good, a nice sort of close out the trilogy, and I think the whole trilogy is just very entertaining and really good. I think that maybe I would say maybe not hidden gem, but I think you could make an argument that number three is a little underrated. I
Yeah,
think it's a little
like I
underrated.
said, it's very much a gray area, and I was like,
Yeah, I'd say
"Should
underrated.
I?" But then I was just like, "You know what? It's my list, so
Yeah.
it's on there."
Hey, if we're doing this every week, we can't be as picky as we were at the beginning. Let's be real.
That's a good point, yeah.
So I think it counts. I think it's good. Yeah, I actually got to see the first one at the drive-in a couple weeks ago, and it was so much fun. So fun. So I don't know. I love that series so much.
Yeah,
So
my favorite scene in Part 3, before we move on, is, or one of my favorites, is when Marty's at the whole shindig to celebrate the clock tower going up, and he's getting one of the pies, and on there it says, "Oh, hey, look, frisbee, far out." And I was thinking to myself, why are the pie pans named frisbees? That's so weird. And then the next scene when Biff is bullying the doc, he's like, grab it, throws it, knocks the gun out of Biff's hands, and then he tells Buford Tannen to lighten up, jerk, like, just right into my veins, just right
mm,
into my veins.
yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I mean that's I guess the you kind of have to accept as kind of silly fun as sort of the Biff parts of that third one. The
Not a
most kind of
strong word, Runt.
yeah. All right. Well, my next pick is the Disney animated shorts collection, Walt Disney animated shorts collection that they have on Netflix because things haven't completely moved over to Disney Plus yet. Some stuff is still at Netflix, and it's the first volume. I don't know if they've done a second one, but anyway, the short films collection, and I love animated shorts. I think they're so fun, so charming. And this one has some really, really, really good ones. You have Feast, which won an Oscar and is just so great about this cute little doggy and his owner and all the food that he gets from his owner, that kind of symbolizes different parts of life, and it's adorable. And they have Frozen Fever for your Frozen fans. There's a one called Get a Horse, which kind of blends live action and traditional animation together in a or CGI and traditional in a really creative way. And then there's Paperman, which was one of the first uses of hybrid animation, where it involves both 2D and CG in a very creative way. And it's a sweet little romance story. There's Tangled Ever After, which is a Rapunzel wedding movie. The Ballad of Nessie, which is a cue about the Loch Ness monster. There's Prep and Landing, and I really enjoy Prep and Landing. They're really cute little shorts. They have TikTok Tale, which is about a clock in a clock store. How to Hook Up Your Home Theater, which is sort of an homage to the old Goofy how-to shorts. And so that's really fun. And then The Little Match Girl, which was a Fantasia short that didn't end up in the Fantasia 2000, and it is really sad but beautiful. Then one called Lorenzo, about a cat, this pampered cat who I think does the tango. I think. Anyway, really fun. And then last one is called John Henry, the old tale, and it has really great music, and it's great, and the beautiful animation in that one. So I really enjoy all of these, and I really enjoy watching them, and they're on Netflix right now. And so it's a real good, nice opportunity if you don't have the DVD to watch the shorts. If you do have the DVD, if you're able to get the DVD, they have audio commentary for every single one from the directors, which is a lot of fun. So, have you seen any of these?
I have seen, and I'll read off the ones I have seen. I have seen Frozen Fever, uh, which was just painful because it was attached to Coco.
No,
It was,
no, that's not the right one. Frozen Fever was the one in the summer.
oh,
You're thinking of Olaf's Frozen Adventure, the Christmas one.
Frozen Fever is the
That's the
one I
one that was
like.
the yeah.
Frozen Fever is the one I like.
It's the one where Elsa's sick or Anna's sick and Elsa's trying to make her birthday. And
That one I really liked.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It was
Feast,
good.
I almost cried. I
It's so
love
good.
Feast so much. Paperman, I remember watching, but I can't remember much of it. But my favorite out of all of them may be The Little Match Girl. That is the
Yeah,
one that
it's
I
so
have the
good.
most experience with.
Mhm.
It's a beautiful story, and it's especially beautiful considering it's coming out. It came out around Christmas. It takes place on Christmas Eve, so I just get teary eyed for stuff like that.
Yeah, it is really, really beautiful. And of course I anything with Christmas, I'm gonna like it more. But you should check out the Purban Landing next Christmas, especially if you like Arthur Christmas, because they feel somewhat similar in certain ways. So
I
yeah,
definitely will.
it's a really nice little gem. I love the collections of the shorts. The Pixar collections, shorts collections are also really, really good. But this is kind of nice because you get a little more varying styles. And whereas Pixar, it's almost all just the CGI type style. There's a few that are a little different, but like Night and Day, that one's a little different. But anyway, what do you have next on your list?
So my next choice is from the year 2003, and it is Looney Tunes Back in Action. This was directed by Joe Dante, who directed Gremlins and a movie called Matinee, which is very underrated. I could do an entire video talking about Matinee, but Looney Tunes Back in Action is a special movie for me because I love the Looney Tunes. I've grown up
Yeah.
with them. I've watched pretty much all of them several times over, or at least I felt like it anyway. Uh, I fully understand that Looney Tunes Back in Action may not be the best, but I still love it because it's a tribute to the Looney Tunes, and it's clear that the actors and the director Joe Dante are just having the time of their lives being a part of all of this. I even like Space Jam. I know it's a glorified
Mhm.
Nike commercial, but I still love it, and I
Yeah.
cannot wait for Space Jam 2, but I digress. Uh,
Did you watch The Last Dance by chance on
I have
Sunday?
been meaning to, but I guess I'm just gonna have to wait until it wraps.
It was really good. But this last episode, this last Sunday, they had they had a whole little section on Jordan filming Space Jam, and they showed him with all of these people in the green screen green costumes, you know? So him
Right.
like surround it looked like him surrounded by all these aliens or whatever playing basketball. And I guess they built like a whole a whole full size court for him there so that he could get all his training done in between set and everything like that. And he would bring in NBA stars and players and stuff to practice with while they were filming for the summer. Anyway, it was interesting.
Because when you have the greatest of all time at your disposal, then you bend over backwards to make him happy.
Yeah, for sure.
But as
So
far as
yeah.
Looney Tunes Back in Action is concerned, I did rewatch it, and it's still really funny. I mean, Brendan Fraser's really funny in it. Jenna Elfman's good. Steve Martin is really funny as the as the head of the Acme Corporation. There's nice little nods to Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner, which are among my favorites. Bugs Bunny and Daphne have a really funny chase in the Louvre alongside Elmer Fudd, which I highly recommend to everyone. Go out of your way to watch. If you watch nothing else from Looney Tunes Back in Action, go watch that chase because it is funny, especially the ending.
Uh-huh.
But Looney Tunes Back in Action is definitely really really funny.
That's cool. I haven't seen this in so long. I really need to revisit it because I like you love the Looney Tunes so much. They're so brilliant. They're so funny. They're so creative. And I remember feeling a little bit underwhelmed by Back in Action, but I think it had been kind of maybe a bit overhyped to me, and so I think I just need to see it with just no expectations and just watch it and see it again because it has been a long time since I saw it.
I don't
And
think
I
you can
I
ever
love that.
recapture the glory of those early days in like the
Yeah,
50s and 60s. Like you just can't. You can try. Like you
sure.
can like get an exorcist and get Mel Blanc back from the dead, but you're just never going to be able to recapture that. What is in the past is in the past. What you can only do now is try and pay homage to it and do something different. And
Yeah,
I
that's
think Joe
fair.
Dante tried to do that.
Yeah, yeah. Very cool. Good. All right. Well, my last pick is a movie that I don't know if it's really that obscure, that hidden, but it's a movie that's very dear to me. Is The Perks of Being a Wallflower. And this is a really interesting movie because the it's one of those rare cases where I think that the movie improves upon the book in almost every way. And I think the reason why that's the case is because the movie was adapted by Stephen Chbosky, who wrote the book, and it was also directed by Stephen Chbosky. So it's kind of a very unique situation. And the first time I saw this movie, I saw it 3 times that week in the theater because I connected with it so much. I felt so like invested in every single character, and it to me it felt like this could have been filmed in my high school with my friends. I just felt like such a connection to them, and there were a lot of little things that it did that I think most high school movies don't do and don't do right. They like just again just a small thing, but like there's a big scene where the big fight, and you see that a lot in these movies. This is one of the only ones I've ever seen where the person walks away and their hand is like swollen, and and they have to get ice on it and stuff. You never see that, and there was just lots of little details. Like I loved the fact that the party was just like them hanging out in a basement with like these most of these high school movies. You have these huge parties that are just so unrealistic, and I never seen anything like that. So it's just like them talking in a basement, hanging out, whatever. And I love the script, the whole the we accept the love we think we deserve. I think that's really very true, and the whole scene with the with going through the tunnel and we are infinite and so good. I love Ezra Miller in it, and I'm not always the biggest fan of Emma Thompson. I mean, Emma Thompson.
Emma
I'm
Watson.
I'm not always the biggest fan of Emma Watson, but I like her in this a lot. I think she pulls off the accent really well, and I I don't know. I love it. I absolutely adore this movie, and I think it's got such a great combination of humor and heart and emotion, and I don't know. I just like I said, I feel like it could have been filmed with my friends in high school. Even the lockers looked the same as my high school. It was just so nostalgic for me on that level. But I love it. I don't know if you've seen this one.
I saw it a very long time ago, but I haven't gone
Mm.
back to it since. But now hearing your glowing recommendation, I'm like, well, I'm going back and watching that. So,
Well, you have to let me
but
know what you think.
I
I
certainly
know.
will it because everything that you've said about it would suggest that I would like it because especially the party stuff because
Yeah.
I have a soft spot for movies like that, the coming of age type movies, but I like the movies the most where they don't have the lavish parties that are so unrealistic and they have
Yeah.
like all the booze and they're making all the noise and no neighbors have made any complaints and the parents are conveniently out of town and it's an if then abstract quid pro quo kind of thing and
Yeah.
it's unrealistic. But
Yeah.
just judging from what you've been saying, I'm like, okay, this sounds like the opposite of that.
Mhm. Yeah, that's how I feel at least. And I mean, I just like I said, I love Ezra Miller when he gets his satisfactory on his his wooden ship thing. He's like, "Satisfied. I am satisfactory." He passes. He's able to pass, so he doesn't have to stay in that teacher's class anymore. Like, just so funny and sweet, and uh the ending is shocking. It never fails to shock me, but I think it works and it earns it. And so I absolutely adore it. So people should see it and decide for themselves what they think, I guess. But you can just tell it has. Uh, I think you can tell that it is directed by the writer of the original book. There's just an intimacy there that I think is special about it. So, what's your last pick?
So my last pick is from 2005. It's from the mind of Tim Burton and is called Corpse Bride. This
Mhm.
is one of my all-time favorite Burton movies. I watched it 2 years ago for my Halloween series that year, and I absolutely loved it. The premise is about a young man voiced by Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp in a Tim Burton movie, you don't say. Well,
And
but
who'd have guessed it? Helena Bonham Carter's in it too.
I know, I'm just as shocked as you, but uh, the young man played by Johnny Depp, who is about to get married in an arranged marriage. However, he is having cold feet. He runs off into the woods and he is saying his vows, and he accidentally proposes and marries a corpse bride. but
Yeah.
and he gets taken down to the land of the dead, and he visits down there for a little while. Uh, a theme throughout Tim Burton's movies is that the world of the dead is somehow more interesting than the world of real life. Especially in Corpse Bride, because in Johnny Depp's world it's very stodgy and dark and very British, but in the land of the dead it's all very colorful and there's skulls everywhere, and it's like Coco, but instead of warm colors, it's like dark blues and grays and whites.
Mhm.
Uh, I can safely say that I think I like Frankenweenie just a tad bit better than I do Corpse Bride, but Corpse Bride has just so much personality about it. It's got a good story. It's darkly funny in some parts. It's one of those animated movies that got lost in the shuffle when it came out, and I don't think it should have. I think that was a travesty.
There are so many. things about Corpse Bride that I love. I think it is a great film. I love the fact that they have both of the brides are really sweet and you're kind of rooting for both of them. Neither of them is a villain and you can kind of see why he might pick either one to be with, and I really like that. I love the music. The score is so good. I love the songs are really fun, but especially the score. And when they have Victor's piano solo, just that long, beautiful piano solo when he's playing is just so great. And there's not that many movies where a character is just allowed to play a piano solo like that, but it's so pretty. And I just all the animation is so beautiful. I mean, I'd say just on pure animation, I think it's better than the Night Before Christmas. It's just the way it uses color and the way it moves and flows and is so special. And so yeah, the story is maybe not as good as Nightmare Before Christmas, but that's a high bar of creativity and, and ingenuity. But the overall film, it's just so beautiful, and I I think it's quite can be quite funny. And like I said, I love the music.
Yeah, the music is really good. I mean, you can almost never go wrong with Danny Elfman.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I
Well,
even love his Oingo Boingo days.
very good. Yes. So great pick. I love Corpse Bride. So let's go over our list real quick. I have the Money Pit. I have Kate and Leopold, Mansfield Park, the Walt Disney Animated Short Films Collection, and The Perks of Being a Wallflower. So,
No,
what's
my
your list?
my choices are Joseph King of Dreams, Arthur Christmas, Back to the Future Part 3, Looney Tunes Back in Action, and Corpse Bride.
Great. Very, very good. Well, thank you so much for coming on talking about this with me. Let us know if you're listening, if you got to see any of these and what your thoughts are on them. And if you've seen any hidden gems on Netflix, we want to hear your thoughts. So, Ryan, how can people find you?
They on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. You can find me at RyanCam20, and my YouTube channel RyanCam Movie Reviews. I've got a couple new series coming up. Well, actually, just one new series with Avatar: The Last Airbender coming to Netflix. I'm going to be starting a big, long-running series on that, talking about all the episodes from there. Also, I'll be continuing the AFI project where I take a look at all of the movies on the AFI's top 100 movies of all time list. Coming up on that series is I'm going to be talking about Vertigo, The Wizard of Oz, City of Light,
Mm.
City Lights, and The Searchers. So
Ah,
there's a lot of quality coming to the channel
yeah.
in the next week or two.
Ooh, that sounds great. Definitely check that all out. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out. And also at the Hallmarkies podcast. And we started a new podcast called the Francast just this week, which is a series on The Nanny, where we talked about the old show from the 90s called The Nanny, which is something I love. We're just barely